This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
I mean, hard teaching is what goes in the thing you want them to buy, right? And it's perfectly fine to give them a sample of what they're buying, but I typically do not do that in the email, or I very, very seldom or very, very little do that in an email.
Hi, my name is Igor Kheifets, and this is the List Building Lifestyle, the only podcast which delivers cutting-edge conversion strategies from the online trenches straight to your earbuds. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. I also invite you to grab a free copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Welcome back to another edition of the List Building Lifestyle with your host, Igor Kheifets. And today, I'm hosting Daniel Levis, who's a highly sought-after direct response copywriter, consultant, and infomarketer. He's done work in the business opportunity space, self-help markets, and health markets, where he'd worked extensively with companies that handle the marketing and distribution of information products headlined by high-profile folks like Mark Victor Hansen, Robert Allen, Dr. Stephen Sinatra, and others. Now, he also collaborated with other top-flight online marketing talents like Joe Vitale, Yannick Silver, John Carlton, who we actually hosted on the show, Clayton Makepeace, and Dan Kennedy, my all-time favorite guru, to produce several highly acclaimed marketing and copywriting information products. Daniel has been exposed to and overseen dozens of high-traffic scientific web marketing experiments that have allowed him to witness firsthand what works online and what does not. And most recently, Daniel has launched his new program. Well, actually, it was a relaunch of an established program, Email Alchemy, which is a membership where he teaches direct response marketers, business owners, entrepreneurs, and pretty much anyone with a brain and a set of hands that, so they could type, how to do email marketing the right way. So, Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me and, just tell us, how did the launch go?
Oh, the launch was fantastic. You got to love launches to do them because they're extremely taxing on your body and your mind, but absolutely wonderful process. Great to get so many new members in the elite Email Alchemy elite members area, and just love it. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, I could tell you put in a lot of effort into the launch. I mean, just the pre-launch videos were so high quality and so detailed. I mean, you had a bunch of graphics happening as well. I was like, when I was watching them, in between taking notes, I was like, man, this guy did a lot of work. It probably took him like a day to put the first video together.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be an understatement. Those pre-launch videos, I don't know how much you want to talk about that. It's certainly integral to email marketing. You got to send people somewhere when you send them an email, and that whole product launch thing is really fascinating. A lot of guys, when they do those, I don't know if you follow a lot of launches, you probably do. I find a lot of the videos to be much higher, more Hollywood production than I did. And the reason I think that people do those Hollywood production things is if you watch a lot of them, they're kind of light, they're kind of fluffy, and it's the music and the fancy flash and everything that drives it. Let me ask you, Igor, when you watch some of these pre-launch videos, imagine if you were watching and there was no music and there was no flash animation, how would you respond?
Well, to be honest, I don't like those. Like, I don't resonate with those because as you mentioned, I follow the launches, and it's getting old now where they put in so much effort into the effects rather than the content that you feel that you wasted your time, right? When you went through the pre-launch videos, and you sort of know, like when you watch those, they're trying to sell you something. So it's really hard to concentrate. Now with your videos, and this episode ain't going to be about the launch. So don't worry guys, we're actually going to talk about email marketing, list building in just a sec. But with your videos, I got to admit that I knew you wanted to sell me something because first off, I didn't know you before the launch. I got an email from Doberman Dan, and I sort of like, oh, email marketing, and was sort of polarizing. So I went in, and I was like, once I started watching, like, oh, he's definitely doing a launch. But a couple of minutes into it, I caught myself. It was about 8:30 a.m. in the morning, and I literally, instead of reading for 30 minutes as I do in the morning, I ended up watching the first video because I really seen it to be so valuable that I felt that if I missed it, if I delayed watching that, if I delayed getting that information, I am literally, leaving money on the table right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's what I was shooting for. And there's a certain danger in going too far too. So I was trying to walk the line between actually giving you something, some content without, over satiating you and making you, think you had the whole enchilada. So thanks for the feedback. So go ahead, ask me something about email.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Let's get into the interesting stuff. So first thing I want to ask you, you have done work with some of the most famous internet marketers on the planet. I mean, Yannick Silver, Dan Kennedy, John Carlton, it's just mind-blowing, all right? And now that you're out there, you create this, the email alchemy, right? And you're teaching average people like us, you teach them how to do email marketing. What are some of the cardinal mistakes or cardinal sins that you see people make with their emails, when it comes to frequency, subject lines, pretty much anything, like the top 3 mistakes or sins that you see?
I think the biggest sin is copying internet gurus, doing what internet gurus do. And it's probably the most common mistake that I see. You see the big gurus and they put things in the subject line like, hey, ... or, just the person's name in the subject line or some, goofy thing in the subject line. And then you see everybody copying and doing the same thing. So that would be one of the cardinal mistakes. And that's really the wrong thing to be doing. People say that, the subject line is there. It's just to get the email opened. Well, yeah, it is there to get the email opened. But if that's all you're doing with the subject line, you're killing the readership of the email once people open it.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure to cut you off. I just want to mention something because I'll forget and then it'll just evade me. That's one of the things you mentioned in the first pre-launch video for Email Alchemy. You said don't use these misleading, cheesy subject lines because what you're doing is you're violating expectations. Like you're literally killing your chances of them opening that email next time.
Right. Unless you give them some type of satisfaction just from reading the email, you're lowering their responsiveness to future emails. We talk about subject lines being the be all and end all, and subject lines are important, but the subject line is actually less important than the from line. And the from line is basically like an anchoring, an anchoring of what happened before. So when people are looking through their email to decide, well, what am I going to read today? What am I going to delete today? They're actually looking at the from line. They're not looking at the subject line first. So they're scrolling down. They're looking and skimming, did I get an email from Igor today? And then there's this snap decision or this snap trigger that says, oh, what did Igor give me last time? Or what did Igor give me over the last several months, or whatever the previous history with Igor was. And only then do they look over to the right and see, well, what's in the subject line? And that's got to be good too. But it's the from line that's more important. And when you do this kind of tricky subject lines that trick people to open an email, unless the trick really ties in and it's really fascinating and it's really instructional and relevant to what you're asking to click on, then you're reducing that brand equity in the from line. So the next email comes along and they just trash it. They don't even look at the subject line. And that's generally what happens with most of the emails that people get. Don't you think, Igor?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you violate my expectation once, I either hit the spam button if you're really, really cheesy, right? Or I'll unsubscribe, or at the very least, I'll just ignore you for a while. And, it's safe to say that if I ignored you once or twice, third time, you're into my ad blindness folder in my brain. I'm not even going to notice your emails.
That's right. And it's the same thing in the body of the email. Like the typical guru approach is, right, they write you a tricky subject line and then you open the email and there's 2 paragraphs in there. Right. And they're telling you about all the great things that are, waiting for you when you click, but they don't tell you a damn thing about what it is. So you click on it and you're not very likely to buy because you have no idea what's on the other side of that click. So you're just really clicking because you're curious. And when you do that, people will click a lot, but they don't buy very much because, they're just not they're not primed. You haven't pre-framed that click as anything apart from some, blind sort of benefit. And if you want to really do well with email marketing and you want to do well over the long term, you want to avoid doing what the gurus do. You want to give them subject lines that are curiosity inducing, that offer some type of a benefit, that actually tell you what's inside the email, and that also have what I call a pattern interrupt. And, the gurus have the pattern interrupt and they have the curiosity. What they lack usually is what I call a relevant benefit, like some type of a hint as to what is inside of that email, so that when you open it up, oh, yes, he delivered, he followed through. Same thing with the copy inside the email. Don't be afraid to tell them the story. You're going to get less clicks. I'll warn you that right now, but don't worry about that. It's not about how many clicks. It's not about how many opens you get. It's not how many clicks you get. It's how many sales you get. You can't go to a bank and say, hey, look, I got a bag full of open and click-through rates here.
I tried, man. They did not cash that in.
They wouldn't cash it. So if you really want to do well, you need to get good at writing copy. You need to be able to grab people's attention and hold it inside of that email. And the longer you can do that within reason, like my emails are typically like 500, 700, 900, maybe even over 1,000 words. And that's longer than most. It's not a book or anything. I mean, you can read 1,000 words in 4 minutes, right? These emails are really like 2, 3, 4 minute dialogues that I have with people, so that by the time they have dialogued with me for 3 or 4 minutes, they are like ready to rock and roll when they click that button and they go to do whatever it is you really want them to do, is to, opt in or to buy something or to watch a video or whatever it happens to be. You're going to get people that are much more compliant when you ask them to click on that link.
It's funny that you mentioned the word dialogue. I would like to continue listing the cardinal sins. So just, to make a mental note to go back to the word dialogue, because I think it is really, really critical we explain exactly why I use that word. So mistake number 1, copying the gurus. Do not do that. At least not unless you know exactly why the gurus use that particular subject line or that particular benefit or their particular formula. So what's the cardinal sin number 2?
Well, I think the cardinal sin number 2 is not providing any kind of substance, not providing any kind of value right inside of the email. I mean, typical email marketing common wisdom says that, email is really just, it's a simple notification service. We're going to send people out an email and we're going to judge our success or failure by how many of them clicked. And before they can click, they have to open. So when you have that as your goal and you have that click as your key performance indicator, you will err on the side of not providing anything of value in that email and assuming that email is only about telling people, okay, I got this great video for you to watch, or I got this great offer for you to check out. And so I'm going to try to get you to click. And therefore, there's no value in that email apart from, hey, I got this thing I need you to click on. And that's exactly the wrong thing if you want to have a long-term relationship with your subscribers, if you want them to trust you, because you're like you're operating off your kitchen table, right? You probably don't have a big budget to create fancy videos that can do that. Videos can certainly create relationships, but it's a lot more expensive to create a video capable of creating credibility and rapport and all of those good things when you can do it in an email. So rather than just notifying people of something to go and look at, build some kind of relationship, give them some kind of a reward for reading your email. Tell them interesting and fascinating stories. Give them some insight into something that's important to them. Provide some inspiration to them, some hope, some entertainment in the email itself, rather than just saying, hey, I got this thing for you to go look at online.
Sweet. So I want to circle back and kind of just briefly mention some key points you're talking about right now. So first off, you're saying that it's just as easy, I guess, or maybe even easier to build a relationship through email, through written text than it is through video, because video is more expensive. It requires a better skill set, and you got to actually be comfortable in your own skin being on video in the first place, which I know that a lot of people are not. Now, the other thing you mentioned is that you use the word value here, but I don't want our listeners to confuse value with hard teaching, because I read your emails, right? You don't hard teach. You give, as you said, entertainment value, which is, to me, I mean, that's like the best value you can give to your readers today, because that's the society, that's what everyone's all about, right? It's all about entertainment today, not really more knowledge or hard teaching. So besides storytelling, what are some other forms of, just briefly, let's just not, just briefly go over like several types of entertainment value that you do with your list?
Right. Well, that would be the third cardinal sin, would be hard teaching in the emails. So there's number 3 for you. Yeah. I mean, hard teaching is what goes in the thing you want them to buy, right? And it's perfectly fine to give them a sample of what they're buying, but I typically do not do that in the email, or I very, very seldom or very, very little do that in an email. What I want to give people, though, is, as you say, Igor, I want to give them entertainment. I want to inspire them. I want them to feel, empowered, so that when they click, they're in a much higher state of readiness to buy. And some of the things that you want to put in the email to create that, I have like a whole list of things that I use. One of them is and this is a little bit deep, so we won't go too far down the rabbit hole, but one of the things is celebrity worship. The people are fascinated by the Kardashians, and they're fascinated by Donald Trump, and they're fascinated by all these people in the media. And so I will use that, and maybe I'll take something topical about what's happening with Donald Trump, or what happened with Miley Cyrus and the finger rubbing incident. And I'll put that in an email, because that gives people, they just enjoy that kind of thing. It's entertaining. It's really a lot of fun to watch a celebrity, fall on their face. Like, who doesn't love that?
Well, I do. I gotta be honest.
So that's one thing. Another thing is the bizarre, the weird, the just like really strange stuff. And I can take as a weird, just strange story, and I can twist that and make it relevant to just about anything. So it's a matter of taking that weird story and then creating a series of associations between, well, what happened in that weird story, and how does that associate to something else that's a little closer to what you want to sell, and how does that associate to something that you want to sell? And basically coming up with finding a weird story online and then twisting it so that I can take that attention that I've absorbed and then send it off to the link and have a really good association, so that it actually teaches them something, gives them hope, gives them inspiration to do something that they want to do anyway, and channel that onto a purchase or an opt-in or whatever.
So that was number 1, celebrity worship. Number 2, bizarre, weird stories or news stories, or just bizarre stuff that you can, make relevant through association to what you're doing.
I'll give you another one. I'll give you 3. 3 is a good number. Embarrassment.
My favorite.
People are just fascinated by, stories of embarrassment, because they're glad it's not them. and number 2, they want to avoid embarrassment. And it's just, wired into our psyche to be, we want to belong. And embarrassment is like, you've done something wrong. You're going to be shunned by the group. So it's just inherently a lightning rod of attention and interest. To give you an example of an email that I wrote, and I write about embarrassment all the time. I mean, even just putting the word embarrassing in the subject line is going to get you somewhere. So one of the things that you may have heard of Robert Allen and multiple streams of income. You heard of that?
Uh-huh.
I wrote an email about multiple streams of embarrassing income. Now, would you open that?
Absolutely.
And inside, I tell this just horrific, embarrassing story about, my past and the crazy things that I've done to earn multiple streams of embarrassing income. But any kind of embarrassing story works. That's just my way of associating it to, how does this tie into what I'm selling? I'm, going to help you to make some money. So, multiple streams of embarrassing income. It's kind of got a double-edged sword. It's a bit of wordplay with something that's already got a lot of traction in the marketplace, multiple streams of income, and embarrassing. It's kind of putting those two things together. So
does it have to be about you?
Oh, no, not at all. It can be an embarrassing story that, we love to hear embarrassing stories about other people that we can laugh at or that we can learn from or that we can just be glad it's not us. Sure.
Nice. Well, I think the embarrassment one is pretty much the most profitable one I've ever used, and I keep using it. I do my best to press every possible button that my market has through my emails. I try to write their insecurities as hard as I can because I learned that for me personally, the only way I do something, like the only way I lost weight when I was really, really fat was when I felt truly embarrassed about being fat. Like, if I felt okay being fat, I would have never got, my act together and got off soda pops and cakes and sweets and stuff like that and, got my ass into the gym. So I think if you're listening and you're thinking, well, I don't want to be, I don't want to be a dick to my list. I don't want to I don't want to be a bad person. I don't think embarrassing other people is nice. Well, you're actually doing them a huge service by embarrassing them into taking action and improving their life, given, of course, that you're selling something that is going to help them improve their life.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff I do is kind of negative. I mean, another one of the hooks that I use a lot is betrayal or revenge. These are like nasty, gutter stuff, right? It's the kind of stuff that drives the Enquirer, the National Enquirer. But that's what gets people's attention, and that's what gets people to change. Like, we don't do anything without emotion, right? If you take the E off the word emotion, what do you get? Motion, right? Well, we want people to take action. So you have to stir up the emotions, and a lot of times it's negative stuff. And that's perfectly cool, as long as you have the good intention behind it.
I think the first time I heard someone talk about this was Frank Kern during the second mass control launch. He called it the rubberneck effect.
Right.
And he spoke about how if you drive down the street and you see a wedding on the right and a funeral on the left, you are naturally, or a car crash or something on the left, you'll naturally be, tempted to look on the left at the car crash because that's how human brain works.
Right.
Cool. So, Daniel, again, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me and chat about all this stuff. Now, guys, you're listening to this and you want to excel with email marketing. Now, if there's anyone who I know who shares, actually, let me put it this way. I don't know of anyone else but Daniel who gives you more templates and more swipeable material for email marketing and copywriting in general than he does. And I want you to go to Daniel Levis, that's DanielLevis.com/Igor to claim a free report that's going to give you 437 proven email subject lines to plunder, pillage, and profit. And, I can only, of course, knowing Daniel, I know these are proven. These are not just, something you went off and copied off of your inbox blindly. I know these are tested and proven subject lines. So make sure, guys, you visit DanielLevis.com/Igor, all low caps, to claim your free report and use those subject lines. And once you do, and you see for yourself, you experience the power of what this guy can do with words, make sure you check out Email Alchemy. Just Google that. I'm sure you'll find a link and join that membership site or community, because your email game will skyrocket as a result. So, Daniel, truly and really grateful for you taking the time and sit down with me. Any last word of advice for our listeners?
Yeah, well, I want to thank you, Igor. My pleasure for, thanks for inviting me. I just want to add that when you get in the subject line madness for Email Marketing Mastery free report, and this should kind of go without saying, but you bring your brain with you and use the subject lines as much as for inspiration as for swiping. When you look at a subject line, think about, obviously I can take, email marketing or whatever is in the subject line. I can put my thing in there, and that's cool. That's one way to do it. But also look at, why is this subject line effective? What's the hook? What's the key here? Is it embarrassment? Is it betrayal? Is it, revenge? What is it? And kind of think, wow, how else might I be able to use that idea? So that would be my parting thought. And, I'd love to see you in the elite members area. We've got, I think, 300-400 people in there now, all a great group of people, all, working together to make more money with email alchemy. And it'd be great to see you in there. So thanks very much, Igor.
Nice. Oh, one last question, Daniel. If you become an elite member, do you get your opinion and advice on subject lines and email swipes?
Well, you get it in the trainings. If you go in as a monthly member, you can come on a monthly hot seat. We bring members on live once a month, and we also have a lifetime membership. It's a little more money, at least up front, and we can actually go back and forth via email, and I'll train you and coach you as you're working through your business. So you got a couple of different options, and you'll see that when you Google it.
Well, as someone who invested literally tens of thousands of dollars to work with some of the world's best copywriters, including John Carlton, I want to say that having someone like Daniel or anyone with as much experience, emailing you back and forth with you and suggesting how to improve your subject lines, how to improve your email swipes. And it's not just the words, right? It's the psychology and the thinking behind it as well, can be invaluable. It's just, lifetime value here is just insane. So if you can afford it, I really recommend going all the way and making sure you try and get, under Daniel's wing, so to speak, because, a year from now, you'll be doubling, tripling, quadrupling your income simply because you'll be smart enough to know what to say, when to say, and how to say it, to elicit that response from your list. And, Daniel, I couldn't have enjoyed more this interview, and hopefully it's not the last one we do together. So until next time, have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Oh, thank you, Igor.
Thank you for listening to The List Building Lifestyle. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to never miss an episode. Because who knows, just one conversion tactic we share on the show might double your list and double your business. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. And don't forget to claim your complimentary copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. This is Igor Kheifets, and until next time we talk, have a good one.
This is the podcastfactory.com.